Hello. My name is Sean Parks, and I am a student on the Falmouth University MA Photography course. My father, an RAF policeman, was trained in photography by the RAF. It was his interest in photography that inspired me to pick up a camera for the first time. Dad purchased his first camera on his way to the island of Gan in the Maldives, where he was posted from 1957 to 1958. He took many photographs of his mates and colleagues, and of the island and atoll where he lived. After retiring from the RAF in 1977, he bought a Shin CE4S camera with databack and motor drive. On a more limited budget, I contented myself with a more basic Shin CE4. My father showed me the basics of loading film, and how to set the aperture, shutter speed and ISO settings. He said to me,
"Best way to learn is to go out, take photographs, and make mistakes, but only make each mistake once."
Being third generation RAF, it is unsurprising that my early photography concentrated on military aviation. I'm going to cover aviation photography in some detail shortly, so I will show a couple of other photographs here. The first one is an informal portrait of my mum and sister, from 1984. I took the second photograph whilst holidaying in Spain in 2006. Joe and I had taken a day trip to Morocco when we went the wrong way and ended up in a non-tourist area, where our presence was not appreciated. Analysis. I did not consider myself a photographer, just a snapper, as I had not received any training and my photographs were purely for my own enjoyment of the images and the memories. I did experiment with panning moving subjects, and long exposure photography from road bridges, but the prints are stored away somewhere. My photography was photojournalistic in style, what you see is what you get photography, with no real story other than what the viewer discerns for themselves. I was an officer in the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve, commissioned in 1996 after 12 years service as a warrant officer instructor in the Air Training Corps. As an instructor, I ran many camps and courses, for example RAF Kinloss in July 2010. These courses gave me access and opportunity to photograph many subjects, such as the natural beauty of the nearby port and beaches. My landscape work naturally tends towards the style of Justin Mins, who seems to favor the natural style that I enjoy. Cadets take part in a variety of training activities, including team building, communications, and leadership. Here, we see cadets trying to lower a very lightweight tent pole to the ground using only 2 fingers each. They are reliant upon good communication and coordination. In another exercise, one member of the team is blinded using blackout goggles. Again, they are reliant on teamwork and clear communication to succeed. In this period, I mainly concentrated on taking better quality images. However, it is also the period in which I commenced studio and location work, working with aspirational, semi-pro or hobbyist models, in developing our mutual portfolios, as well as undertaking some commercial work, primarily for friends. In Figure 15, my daughter's Doberman Riley is having his nails clipped by Emma, who commissioned me to produce images for her marketing materials. Figure 16 is a portrait of Yitka, photographed adjacent to the ruins of Newark Castle. Aviation has been a constant feature all throughout my photographic career. From vivid memories of watching and listening to Lightning fighters when I lived in Germany, aircraft have intrigued and excited me. I have a number of limited edition fine art aviation prints by a master of the genre, the late Robert Taylor. In shooting some of my aviation images, I have used Taylor as an inspiration. Taylor explained,
"Like any painter of natural scenes, I have always found a fascination in the untamed elements. The raw power of the sea, the winds, rain, snow and sunshine. I admire that aspect of human nature which is constantly striving to conquer those elements. When I paint an aircraft in a sunlit sky, for me, there is always a thrill of tension and expectancy."
I decided to create some art in the style of Robert Taylor. On the way to visit my uncle, I stopped at the Woodhead Reservoir. And there it was. The backdrop to my piece of art. This was the original shot that I edited to become the backdrop into which I inserted another image I had taken. The Lancaster bomber of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. In Lancaster over the Woodhead Reservoir, I have imagined the Lancasters of 617 Squadron practicing for their raids on the dams of the Roar in May 1943. I have sold copies of this image. I have always loved watching birds whose movements can range from mating dances, the staccato and very fast flights of swifts and house martins, to the glorious soaring of red kites and other raptors. Red kites are my favorite birds, and I have traveled to Wales and to Scotland to witness up to 200 red kites assembling where they are regularly fed, and have sold prints of red kites feeding on the wing. I have always enjoyed the beauty of nature. The colors. The structures of wings and feathers. Fur rippling in the wind, And the markings too. The work of Simon King fascinated me as a teenager, and I remember thinking that he was a wonderful photographer for someone so young. I mean, he could have been my age. I found out, years later, that he is exactly my age, as we share our date of birth. In 2015, I did my first ever studio shoot with a young lady, going by the name of Imelda, who wished to do a photo shoot to boost her confidence. However, she was struggling to walk and stand for any length of time. She was recuperating from an almost fatal car accident which caused severe brain injuries, hence her mother coming along to support her. In the image, Imelda was holding onto the lampstand to steady herself. Imelda also tried some lingerie, and implied topless work for the first time, gaining a large increase in self-esteem and confidence when she saw the images. Helmut Newton famously said,
"A woman does not live in front of white paper. She lives on the street, in a motor car, in a hotel room."
With my studio portrait of Charlie Joe, I have attempted to recreate some of the day-to-day clutter found in Newton's portraits. I have always loved Newton's work, and especially his attitudes to the art form. George Hurrell was one of the first to establish themselves as a glamour photographer in 1920s and 30s Hollywood. Hurrell originally aspired to be a painter, but whilst in art school, adopted the practice of photographing various scenes, ensuring a stock of reference materials all year round. Hurrell moved to Laguna Beach, at the invitation of famous landscape painter Edgar Allan Poe, but discovered that photographing the artists around the area, and the wider local social scene, paid better than painting, and so, his photographic career began. Hurrell met the film star Roman Navarro, who used Hurrell for his publicity shots. Through Navarro, Hurrell met all the Hollywood glitterati and the rest is history. Many of Hurrell's portraits were shot against plain dark or light backgrounds, and I have used similar approaches in many of my simple portraits. My focus has been moving towards alternative modeling. Tattoos and piercings are much more prevalent now, so I have begun photographing alternative models like Will. In looking back, I have concluded that my current photographic practices are informed by and based on a few different photographers. In looking forwards, I have two projects which interest me greatly. My Skin is my autobiography will look at subjects' tattoos and piercings. I will invite the subjects to describe their tattoos, and explain what significance they have. I am fairly confident, based on primary research already undertaken, that there will be a common link between the tattoos and mental health. I may well carry the project on to become a full-blown research paper for a PhD in due course. My other project is going to be entitled, But You Don't Look Autistic, and will build on Bianca Topi's book of the same name, in which she examines some of what science in inverted commas says about autism, and why it can be ignored as incorrect, based on her own experiences and research.